like I'm really close to Sheila. No, away from me.
I feel like I feel
like I'm cuddling you though.
I'm not sure if they've like exactly positioned the store.
It's a little bit like, oh, you're the I don't do
We're going to have a job. Hey, Craig, have you got time cards?
start at 5 down.
You've got more than 1 minute, haven't you?
Start at 5 down.
And please be sure to welcome all the people that come up to the stage, our question askers, by giving them a warm round of applause. And also, in the unlikely event of the fire alarm going off, please sit in your seats and just wait for instruction. And finally, enjoy yourself. Hi and welcome to Ask the Strategist, presented by BeBusiness. My name is Michelle Taylor and I am a Chief Marketing Officer. BeBusiness is a collective of expert consultants. We transform businesses from the inside out by becoming an invaluable part of our clients' teams. By giving independent advice and resource capabilities, we build better businesses. Tonight's expert panel includes John Haggerty, CEO of BeBusiness, Sheila Waltho, another Chief Marketing Officer, and Tanya Gray, Chief Sales Effectiveness Officer. The event hashtag is #BBATS, so please feel free to tweet or share on your social media feeds. And don't forget to like BeBusiness on Facebook and follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just before we start, I'd like to acknowledge a couple of people. First of all, Jennifer Hancock from Watso Workspace, who's given us this great venue for this evening. Cam Feast and Fred L. Harris from Film Motion, who are producing and filming the event tonight. And Jovan de Monteverde, our guest from Accounts Maven, who we'll be hearing from a little bit later. So without further ado, we'd like to start with our first question. Can I please ask for a big round of applause for Andrew Vild from Project Everest? Come on up. And Andrew's question is, how do we reduce our costs of customer acquisition while increasing sales conversions? Over to the panel.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for your great question, Andrew. So what I'd really like to do is just like you to tell everyone a little bit about Project Everest, who you are and what you do, and also just give us a bit of insight into what the thinking was behind the question that you've asked tonight.
Right. So do you want me to hold that? Okay. So in short, what we do is we set up development projects overseas. We use a social enterprise model to do that. So we we set up businesses in clean drinking water and sanitation, food security, environmental sustainability. And a massive part of that model is actually training students in social enterprise and getting them to work on those projects and implement them themselves. So we operate overseas probably about 4 or 5 months of the year in those countries, and we provide training in the other months of the year. And then the thinking behind it is obviously reaching out to those students and trying to build the understanding of what we do. A social enterprise is a bit of a foreign concept to a lot of people. Everyone sees business and thinks that it's just for building profit, not necessarily for an ethical outcome. and then actually showing the students that it is something that they can do regardless of whether they study business or engineering or agriculture or whatever else it is, and then building those leadership skills around that as well.
Okay, so just want to dig a little bit and build some clarity for the panel to be able to answer your question. How are you currently generating the leads with the students at the moment? How do you actually reach the students at the moment?
So the main way that we would reach students is actually through pitching and lectures. So we would build a relationship with the university, ask the lecturers whether we could go and speak in front of their class for 5 minutes, and then at the end of that pass a clipboard around, get their names written down, and then enter those names into the system, send them emails, give them phone calls, get them to go through an interview process, which is obviously critical. You can't just send anyone over to a developing country, but also you want to build that value within them as well. And so it's a very lengthy, time-consuming and costly process, you know, pitching in an individual lecture, getting those names, calling each individual one, you know, getting them to an interview, interviewing them, then offering them a spot. And so one of the biggest struggles that we're having at the moment is finding a way to get leads who are interested in what we do and are very active and, you know, quality leads in that sense as well.
Okay, so conversion rates may be more of a problem than actually the sheer number of interest you achieve in the first place.
Yeah, conversion rates have been less than ideal, probably around 5-6% in terms of the names that we get to actually coming on project. And then the cost of customer acquisition is incredibly high as well. It's probably about a third of our revenue is going to that.
And do you have anything to compare yourself to? So to see whether or not you can benchmark your conversion rates against like businesses?
Not really. I know last semester we had conversion rates of around 12%, and then this semester is more 5 or 6%. So it's there's a range of factors, and it could be seasonal, but it is pretty hard to kind of compare the conversion rates, given that you are in any given day you're going to a lecture and you don't know whether the degree is related to the work that we offer and the experience that they could be getting out of it. If they're a first year compared to a fourth year, are they looking at getting experience, you know, related to their degree that's going to make them more employable? Is that something they care about? Is that something that they value? So it ranges. Some classes we will get conversion rates of, you know, 40%, and then other classes of 2%. So it makes it very hard to work out that benchmark.
Potentially there could be some interesting data to be had from the people who've already been through the program. Ladies, who would like to tackle this one first?
I'd like to start.
Tanya's got the microphone. So.
Yeah. And it's right up my alley, so I'd like to chat to you. So one of the interesting things that you said, and you've sort of solved your own problem, and I don't know whether you realise that you said that some of the lectures you got a conversion rate of 40% and some of the ones that you didn't. And it's really important to understand who your target market is and whether they're going to be in your buying cycle, because otherwise you're going to have a high acquisition cost. So is there any way that you can go through and pre-qualify those lectures to make sure that you're talking to the right age group or the right subject group to make sure that you're not burning time and money?
Yes, I think there are, but the number of the lectures that do have those high rates aren't enough to reach the numbers that we need. And I think where we find them the most effort still is in actually that calling and that interviewing process. But we probably do need to improve our systems in terms of recording which lectures, you know, give us, you know, those high rates, and we are recording that information. But it is also time consuming, you know, having a lecture where you pitch for 5 minutes, and so, okay, it's, you know, it's 10:15, we've got a lecture pitch at 10:30 at USyd, and then riding over to USyd, doing that. But then if we have a lecture over in Newcastle University or at Macquarie University or down in Wollongong, you know, it's a long way to travel for a 5-minute talk. And so I guess what we're looking at is trying to improve the ways in which we can get those high conversion students and actually, you know, reduce the costs of actually acquiring not just the leads, but also of processing them.
The other thing that I noticed in what you're saying is that you're pitching at your potential clients. Now, I'm sure we all know what it's like when that telemarketer rings at 7 o'clock. We're sitting down to dinner and they're going to tell us all about it. When you start pitching towards your clients, when they're not ready, then they get a bit of what we call flight or fight response. And so your conversion will naturally go down. So is there any way that you can change the experience to go from pitching to something that represents more what you will deliver in the end? So get them involved in the process so that they are naturally falling into the buying cycle, so you're not showing up and throwing up on them.
Are you talking about like creating an experiential buying experience?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit offline about events.
Yep.
So is there any way that you can get them to feel the experience of working with you so that they don't feel like you're just sharing information they're not ready for?
Yeah, that's something we would absolutely like to do. It's how you do that is probably where we're struggling the most. In terms of the feedback from our alumni, what we're strongest at is our community and our training. We're fantastic at training in terms of leadership, in terms of social enterprise, but to per se run an event where you want to have 100 people turn up for the activities that you have planned to work, relying sometimes on universities to advertise that correctly, or to actually get those numbers to turn up, it's quite hard. And so we'd often find we'd be running an event and maybe we'll get 30 or 40 people put their name down, and then the standard 20 people turn up out of that. So yeah, I definitely think that's the way to go. Just how we go about doing that is probably where we're going to struggle.
I won't talk about joint ventures. I'm going to pass that over to Sheila to talk about.
Okay, so we're looking here at reducing cost of customer acquisition and increasing sales conversion. So I think the key is by increasing the conversion rate, you're going to naturally reduce the cost. So you've also mentioned that the real strength is in your community. That's a goldmine for you. So how do you leverage that community to really talk about their experiences that they've had, how has it benefited their degrees and their work experience and their work post doing the program? Because I really think that's where the conversations can be really valuable, and there could be a refer a friend or keep it in the family, for example, people who've got brothers and sisters going through uni or friends. So is that something that you've thought about? Or
Yeah, I think the struggle there is kind of, as you're saying, that fight or flight of, because the core of what we do is about changing the lives within communities and actually doing good in that way. It's a little bit hard to kind of say to the community or to say to people, hey, if you bring a friend along, you get a discount on your project costs of going overseas, because we're not kind of selling a product, so to speak, where we're almost trying to sell impact, in the sense that we're promising that they'll have the opportunity to make impact. And so, yeah, we've tried to get systems where, if they do have friends or family who are interested, that they do push for that. But again, I think it comes down to the messaging and the tactic in the way that we do that. And we're still not exactly sure on how we can. And so we know that we need to leverage the community. It's just how we can do that better is, I think, where we're at a bit of a loss.
maybe also consider looking at other options within the university. So, for example, are there any students studying journalism or photography that you could actually say, well, come overseas with us, see the great work we do. You could then run a project where they submit that as part of their degree or something. So you're almost getting free publicity, and they're kind of using it as part of their degree and their work experience as well. That could be maybe something
that could work really well. That's a good idea, actually.
We have them every now and then. Is there anything else that either of you wanted to add?
No, have you?
Just another thing I would suggest to you is find other people talking to that audience and do events with them. So the responsibility doesn't necessarily always fall back to you, and therefore you'll get a wider, already pre-qualified audience, and they're more likely to buy.
Yeah, I think that's half the struggle as well, is when you want to co-host, or let's just say we're lucky enough to get you guys to come along and do a workshop with us. You want to promise that there's going to be a lot of people there to do that, and so it's kind of that chicken of the egg of, do you get the really good panel of people, and will that attract all those good people, or do you get all the good people before you call in the favour to get that really good panel?
I think maybe an extension of what Tanya's suggesting is, typically when you're looking at who are we going to partner with for something and running good partnerships, it's what comes immediately before and what comes immediately after what you're doing with your customers. Those people can make particularly good partners to work with, because there's a direct relationship between the things that you're offering. If you can't find that, then it's who else is actually selling things or has got some reason to want to get those same bunch of people in a room together, and then the onus is on them to also contribute to actually making that a successful event too. It's not just all on you. Yeah? Beautiful. Excellent. Can we all please thank Andrew? It was a great question. Great. I now want to bring up a special guest. We've got Jennifer here from Whatso Workspace, and we're just going to get to know a little bit about Jen and what they do here at Whatso. Thanks for being here, Jen.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for giving us your fantastic space. It's great. So a lot of people may not be totally familiar with the concept of a shared workspace. How would you summarise that?
It's basically a space where you can come that's got amazing Wi-Fi and your breakout areas, and it just gives you a break from sort of sitting at home working from your home office with just the cat for company maybe. And it gives you those opportunities, I suppose, to network with like-minded people and the other people in the space who might sort of fill those skill gaps that you're looking for in your business as well.
That's excellent. I always say to people too when they ask me about it is that if you don't have the absolute need to hang a shingle, then why would you want to harass yourself with the need to manage an office? It's a pain in the what. So I would prefer to be able to live without it. If we need to hang a shingle, I'd definitely be a customer here. So there's been a lot happening in your space. There's lots and lots of players in the shared and work, the serviced office space, the share workspace. There's lots of different models and lots of different ways of tackling it. Yep. How are you uniquely different, and what's a typical client for a Whatso workspace look like?
So in terms of being different, I suppose in Australia we're sort of one of the bigger players, and the fact that we have the sort of network around Australia and also in Singapore now is a sort of a big sell for us. And from our feedback from members, what they say is that they love being able to sort of travel. We have a passport system, so if you're a member of one space, you can go and work for free in the other spaces, and that ability to sort of travel around the country for work and know that they've got somewhere they can drop into with the same level of service, that's a big sell for them. And then I think the other thing, I guess, for us is that our sort of relationship with our parent company means that we actually own a lot of the buildings that we're in. So a lot of the players in the market, like your WeWork or someone else like that does the same sort of thing, they take a lease, whereas we have kind of an unparalleled flexibility to be able to provide larger office spaces as well, so that where we've had tenants that have stayed with us for a long time, and great for them, they've been super successful, they've actually wanted to sort of stay within that kind of co-working, funky kind of community, and we've been able to sort of grow with them as they've grown and offer them sort of larger tenancies, and even move them onto sort of that more commercial style lease once they get to like 50, 60, 70 staff and they want a bigger space for it. And a typical Whatso person is anyone and everyone, basically. We're not, we don't discriminate against you have to be 22 or building the next Uber, or you have to be like super cool. We just have everyone in our spaces, from app developers and people who are disrupting industries to veterinary consultants and solicitors and things like that. So I think the benefit that members see from that is that, for example, if you are that app builder, likelihood is that you're sitting next to your end user. So it gives you that opportunity to sort of test that out in the space, or get feedback from people that are working alongside you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Please thank Jen. Well done. Welcome, Ben. Thanks for being here. Thanks for such a great question. Trying to test us out. This is great. Just like before, if you can just give everyone a bit of an idea about your company, who you work with, and what the thinking was behind the question that you've asked tonight. What brought you here?
Okay. So my business is a digital transformation agency. So we help enable processes in businesses using technology, primarily in 4 pillars of operation. So marketing, sales, the customer experience or the product itself, and operations. So the kinds of clients we typically might help out with large corporates in the pharmaceutical sector, so we might enable a streamline a process through there, or the medium part of the SME spectrum, where we might come in and automate a sales process or a communication process in that company.
Okay, great. So you're saying you want to take the business to the next level. Help me out here. What does the next level look like for you? Are we talking about going into different verticals, or are we talking about getting more customers like the ones that you've got, different regions? Is it a geographic thing? What does the next level look like to you?
I think it's probably a combination of everything up there, but more customers, definitely. I think as well, similar to the last question, the conversion process can be quite costly due to the amount of education required for a technical job. Some people often don't even realise that what we do exists, or they might know. You've all heard the term digital, but who really knows what that means? So for us, that is quite costly. And on the flip side is delivering the ability to deliver on those projects. So finding technical skills to be able to do that is also quite challenging. So I guess we're at a stage now where we're kind of on top of our game. We might have something we're looking to invest to take the business to the next level. I guess what the next level is going to be commensurate with what we invest in. So we could be a company of 12 from 11 or 13 from 12. And that would take the investment of maybe a couple of $100,000, or we could get 5 more clients with a bit more investment in advertising or some more processes, or we could streamline our processes right now by doing what we do and automate a whole heap more, but then I've got to take resources out of what I'm currently doing, thus reducing our bandwidth to provide more services to clients. So for me, it's about I was hoping to find like a decision-making framework, perhaps, to know when you hit that level, where to go to the next thing, because the last thing you want to be is comfortable.
Okay, sure. So we're trying to get a sense of at what point do you add more resource, and which of the resources that you put in place? Is that where we're sort of going with this? So we want to know, do we spend money on marketing first, resource second? Or do we get the resources lined up first and then try and create opportunities for them? Is it a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah. Okay, but you're trying to figure out where to spend your money next, or is there also a question around the resources you've got and whether or not they're all allocated in the right roles?
Yeah, that's also that's also right. So I guess it's a bit of a broad question, but we've got I see the business as a machine and it's humming along nicely, and I can tune it up, but I don't know where to put the Allen key, or if it's even an Allen key that I need, whether it's a screwdriver, to draw an analogy. So I guess typically, what are the sort of growth patterns that businesses might go through in order to take it to the next level of being, I guess we're on the smaller end of small to medium. How do we get to that medium stage that sets us up to become a large business down the track?
So we've got there's an aspect of this that's got to do with how we market and sell, and there's an aspect to do with how we manage the people in the business. Why don't we tackle the marketing and sales bit first?
Mm-hmm. So how do people currently find you?
Referral, mostly, and I am the primary breadwinner. So I'll just cold call people, or often people come to us with a problem, like they've lost their domain name and they can't find their website. Or a business might need a website to be built. And actually, it always starts with a website. And then from there, we'll end up, doing more and more processes and things like that. That's a typical way to find us.
So are you doing any real inbound marketing where you're actually really targeting?
We do zero inbound marketing. Yeah.
Okay.
The reason for that is I guess just resource. I think a lot of what we have to do to create the marketing material takes my time out.
Yeah.
And as a primary sales person, it's hard to, you run the business, so there's a lot of things to do. So
it's good to know. So from my perspective, I'd say we need to invest in inbound marketing, but unless you've got the resources that you can actually follow through on the leads that you get in and actually do the work, that's really the challenge. So there's no point going hell for leather with marketing if you've got no one to actually deliver the work to the client. So that's probably the first challenge I'd solve in terms of getting more people on board.
Maybe we can mix the two problems together. And what if there was an opportunity to get some resources on board that you can use to market yourself and also resell as part of your solution to your customers?
I guess it's something I'd never really thought of. Probably the reason I hadn't thought of it is because usually it's the technical people that we have trouble with. and the marketing side of things, I don't know. Never really. I don't know enough about the skills of a marketer specifically that I would be able to on-sell. We might contribute to a marketing strategy, but we're far from the core of marketing. We might go, oh, you want to tell that person that message? Well, this is where you tell them, and this is the best way to do it, and this is how you can split test the message that you get out there to make sure that it's the right one. But I won't tell you what that message is. So,
do you actually get work through other agencies, or is it all direct to the end user?
No, we have a combination of both. So our original early days, we did 90% of our business was. I've ruined the internet for all of you. We built every banner ad and EDM that you've ever received in your inbox over the past 4 years for some of the largest, companies. So a lot of agencies use us for that production. But it's something we want to move away from, I guess, because that's the bread, that's the rats and mice stuff. The process is really where it's more interesting for us. So yeah.
So,
Have you got something?
Tanya?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So from going from a small business to a medium business, obviously there's one strategy, we can bring in more leads, but if you haven't got the capacity to do that, then you're going to end up with a bottleneck. Just understand your conversion rate now. So you're getting leads through referrals.
Do you know what your conversion rates are?
Look, it'd be anecdotal, but I'd suggest this. I imagine most business owner who does the selling for themselves would say about 80%. I think most people I speak to tend to come buy from us in one way, shape or form. There might be two reasons why they don't. They're not suitable. They're not big enough and they can't afford it. Or two, culturally we might clash. But that's a new thing. So we've started to turn away work because we don't want to work with, it puts too much stress on our business. And it ended up costing us more money. So they're the two reasons why we would lose work, I guess, or miss.
Is it obvious from the outside who you want to work with?
Yeah, I think within 1 or 2 meetings we generally know who we would like to work with.
I guess, if I came to your website, would I be able to tell who you want to work with?
No, probably not. Yeah. Look, I think our marketing certainly could do with a bit of a bump. I guess the marketing answer is quite straightforward. Like if I could have if I can carve out some time and put some budget to it, then fine. Marketing makes absolute sense because then we get some more leads. But for me, I think maybe we want a salesperson, or do I want an eloquent technical guy who can do the same thing, like produce content material and do that sort of stuff, or do I want to invest in more processes and systems?
So from a human resource standpoint, I think there's a couple of things that you can consider from what you've said so far, and I think you hit the nail on the head with one of those things that you said. Kind of a technical person who's also eloquent. So quite often you'd have someone who's like a project lead who can actually sell the project too. So so when you're looking to fill a role like that in your business, it's probably a good idea to start thinking about someone that you could put in front of qualified leads. So you still want to make sure the leads are qualified so that they can scope and then sell against what's a fairly obvious brief. Yeah, but you're not necessarily looking for a cold caller in that regard, but you still want to have something happening on the marketing side. Yeah. So from a human resources side, I think that it makes sense to start thinking about people who can actually wave the flag for you effectively as well in the different roles, particularly in a project lead. But I also think from what you're saying too, that from your own marketing, there needs to be some clarity developed around, who are we, what do we stand for, who are we going to market for, who are we trying to attract, and having a properly developed marketing strategy, a marketing plan that you can bring everyone on your team on board with. Yeah, I think that so if you're looking for somewhere to invest, I think probably the first thing to do is to actually get that plan in place, and that's going to inform the roles that you're going to have in the business and how to fill that from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think so.
I know a couple of great people who can help you out with developing a proper marketing strategy.
I'd like to challenge that, if that's
All right,
okay.
go for it.
I always like to be a little bit difficult.
There's always more than one way to skin a cat.
Ben said before that he had a conversion rate of 80%. We know statistically that the business owner is the most effective salesperson you can have in your business, and they should be focused on selling. So if I was to look at your situation and say, how can we get more capacity so you have an opportunity to build more business, I'd look at what you can streamline. I have a question around you. You mentioned before that most people come on with a website. How much of their purse spend are you winning from them?
Sorry, say that again.
So how much of their spend on marketing and digital marketing are you getting from them? Is it 100%, or are you leaving some things on the table to competitors?
So if it's through a partner, like a marketing partner or an agency, we're the last one in the line. You know, it's creative, design, then we do the build.
Yeah, less easy
we're not
to
a
control.
creative outfit. Which is one of the reasons we need to move away from that. If we're direct to client, we're often the number one lead. We'll probably take maybe about 60 to 70% of the entire budget. Again, the rest of that going towards creative and media, if we were to do something like that.
So it's easy to fill that position of an account manager to develop existing business where you've already got a trusted relationship, and you need a person with less skill to make that role, and it'll allow you to do what you're really good at. So if you're converting at 80%, I mean, you might be able to tweak that to 90%, but you're doing really well. So it's how you can alleviate that, still grow from the existing base.
Oh, that's good. So like farm our existing crop space is what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
And maybe put a really strong referral program on that, because if you get really loyal existing customers, they can fill your funnel at a very low cost. And if you're great at converting sales, which you seem that you are, then you'll be filling into your strength.
Okay. Great. Excellent. That's good advice.
We have the odd bit here and there. Can we all please thank Ben? Great question.
I think so. Been hiding up the back, hoping not to be called, but I'm here.
What is your favourite thing about HR?
Helping businesses find or make the right hiring decisions. So often a lot of businesses will either go on, I guess, a resume, but good hires happen way before that point in time. Really understanding what the business is about, where you want to go next, is the first thing you need to do, and then figure out what do we need to resource that. So I find a lot of businesses also hire on the notion of liking somebody, which is not always the best thing. So it's a bit of a science, but I love, I guess, helping business owners to see that they can actually, when they put the right person in the right hole, so the right peg in the right hole, they're going to actually make life a lot easier, because people in business, people is a huge element of, I guess, business, and I've been in business for 15 years. It's a struggle sometimes to find the right people at the right time for the right reasons. So we're always hiring. I'm always hiring in my mind, looking for new people. But yeah, just helping people to find the right people in their business, because it can actually make or break your business.
And what have you done that you're most proud of?
I think being in business for 15 years has been probably proud, and also probably been my biggest nightmare. Just going through and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to it, just going through all those ups and downs of business, as well as the triumphs that you have, but also the really low periods that you have where you go, well, what the hell am I doing? I should really go back and maybe get a job. It's much easier, but getting to the point where we're actually being able to grow the business to the point where we want it to go, and it's going in the right direction, and it's finding the right people to join the team as well. It's been really great, so that's what I'm most proud of.
Is there anywhere apart from Sydney that you'd like to live?
I was thinking about this one. I think Antarctica for probably about 2 days, because my little boy, he's 20 months old and he loves baby penguins, and just to see the look, just that moment of joy on his face is all I need to put up with that minus whatever degrees cold it is. So yeah, only for 2 days. That's about all I can handle. I like warm weather.
Is there any skill that you'd like to learn?
Yes, I think public speaking, I think. I think all of us are kind of, some of us are really good at it, but I think, yeah, having a bit more skill around that and being able to get my message across more clearly, I think is something that I'd like to work on. Yeah. Well, thank you.
What's your favourite place in the world and why?
I think Tasmania. I mean, I haven't been to too many places, and I guess I've got a bucket list, but Tasmania, because of the food, because it's so fresh and the air's clean and the environment's beautiful. Yeah, that's what I'd love. Yeah.
And what is your one piece of advice would you give to people who are starting out in business?
To be able to work out how to balance, or actually learn how to think commercially, because businesses, especially starting off in a business and growing it to this stage, it becomes personal sometimes too. You do take it to heart and it does become your baby, and to be able to separate yourself from that and to be able to make commercial decisions along the way that don't involve emotion is very hard, because it's sometimes really hard to distinguish what is commercial and what is actually your own personal bias or your own personal assumptions, leanings, whatever. But being able to realise what is a commercial decision that is right for your business, as opposed to what you feel is right but may not end up to be right because it's it's an emotional decision. So learning that balance has been a challenge, and I'm still learning to think commercially as well, and that's what I guess I teach my clients, but yeah, taking that emotion out to be commercial.
Thank you very much, Leanne.
Thank you.
Very
Thanks.
insightful.
Stick with the first one.
That's all right.
I'll jump on.
We'll get that fixed. Thanks for being here, Emmy. Apologies that we've got the wrong screen up. We'll get that sorted out. Technical difficulties. So let's just sort of kick off by giving everyone a good understanding about your business and what the thinking was behind the questions that you asked. When you're talking about the business, let's tell us a little bit about who you serve and how you work with them.
The background of the business, the core part of the business is really to support the major sporting events in the country. Sydney Marathon, Sea to Surf, that's the kind of sporting space we're in. But due to the necessity of the industry, the high costs of setting up events in Australia, we developed a new product, and that probably led to this question. So in 2015, we had a proof of concept of a film festivals dedicated to just the sports industry, specifically the runners. 2016 was a year of expansion. We went to 7 venues. And 2017, this year, we're currently in 16 venues. So the current projection for next year is approximately 35 venues, with the view to expand into South Africa and Singapore and Hong Kong. So there's this massive exponential growth in terms of our reach to the wider audience, but still connecting to the core part of the industry. So this is where the question comes in. There is a key member of the team, really passionate, really strong, and her skill sets, bringing in partnerships, connecting us to different groups. Even though she was brought on very much specifically on sponsorships and partnership, with a clear definition of this is your commission, this is the structure. Her long-term or short-term goal is to still be part of the business, which I could understand why. She's put in a big, heart and soul into the business. She's very much connected with the business and the community. I suppose it's just for us to continue to grow. If I do want to go down the route of bring her into as part of the business owner, restructuring the business, allowing her to have a certain ownership, what considerations should I have if I do want to include her in? How do I think about what percentage? Is there a time period that I want to look into? Businesses, like all of us are in, are like our little baby. We don't really want to let go that this is going to be somebody else's co-baby now. It's that sense of detachment that we sometimes just need to let go. So regardless of any small business or medium business, there's the eventuality that you bring someone else. So how do I do it?
Okay. So how long has she been with you now?
I've worked with her since 2012 when we were both working full-time in a separate company.
How long has she been full-time in your company?
8 months.
Okay. And who's brought this to the fore? Has she said, hey, I want equity, or have you said that?
It was very much her, and we have gone back.
And she wasn't subtle about it at all, right?
No, she wasn't. And she was very much, no, my final objective is being part of the business. How about we counter and offer you higher commission or a profit share? No, I want to be part of the business. So it was quite explicit.
Okay. So, and girls, let me know if there's an angle on this that you want to take. I'm just going to play with it for a little bit. So there's many ways to do these things, and part of it you've got to come back to overall what your strategy is in terms of how you want to grow and how important different team members are going to be to that. So when you're thinking about it, you've got to say to yourself, well, am I going to make a decision that's going to be right for this particular individual, or am I going to set up a system that's going to make this something that I can roll out to other members of the team as and when it makes sense to do so? Can you foresee that as being a consideration later on?
Very much so. I certainly don't want to go down the route where someone new come in, have a great skill, really passionate, that start giving more parts of the business away. But for this particular individual, I do see there is a great potential. There is a history between us. We have worked together in a really different way. She's polar opposite from myself, brings on different skill sets, so that's really important in the business partnership. She does things that I hate. I do things that she doesn't like. So that's one aspect.
So at the moment, the structure is a proprietary limited company? Yeah. Okay. And at the moment, the shareholding is just yourself.
Myself and the boss and the missus.
Okay. Right. Okay. So they're the only shareholders at the moment. Yourself and your wife.
That's right.
And I imagine there's probably not a whole ton of shares that have been made available.
That's right.
Right. So, I mean, the technicalities of how to do it is actually pretty straightforward, and any accountant worth their salt can actually help you to get to a point where you actually distribute shares to another party. It all comes down to the structuring, all right? And the other aspect of it too is, how is this person going to gain equity in the company? Is it going to be awarded? Is it actually going to be part of their compensation? Or is it actually going to be an opportunity for them to buy shares? Is it going to be through an option system? And there's a thing called an ESOP, an employee share option plan. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but it's a system whereby equity can be made available to team members through a pooled system, which gives you a little bit more control over how things transpire. It depends on whether or not you're actually talking about a true partnership. Yeah, because there are different classes of shares that people can be awarded as well, that can offer different sorts of rights. And the reason why some of these things are important too is because you want to think about, well, what happens if they leave? What do we do with the fact that they own a portion of the company if they leave the company? And how do we distribute the shares if they're going to want to cash them in? Are we going to buy the shares back off them? Are we going to make it available to other staff members to buy their shares? There's that level of complexity that comes around it as well. And so all of this is, I guess, a strategic overview that you've got to have of how you actually want to engage with people who are going to be taking a significant role in your business. Have you given any thought to any of those sorts of considerations?
Unfortunately, no, like all of us business owners, we are so focused on the product itself, the customer engaging, the marketing, but not the real meaty part, where the distribution should be. So something certainly for us to devote a bit more time with the accountant, with the accountant to really work out how we want to structure.
Well, the accountant can actually help you execute what you tell them to. In terms of actually strategizing what needs to be done, that it would depend on, I guess, the background of your accountant as to whether or not they've got any experience with helping you make those sorts of decisions. But as I said, it all comes down to aspects of how do we actually want to incentivise the team. So it could be an opportunity to re-engage with her in terms of how you've employed her in the first place, and say, well, if we're going to go down the equity path, should we be doing something with your commissions and saying that that instead of receiving some of these commissions, you actually receive points towards equity that can have that conversion at a certain point. When you achieve this much, then that converts to a certain level of equity, and then you've basically got to have some sort of a calculation that tells you what's the value of that effort in terms of a portion of the company. Does that make sense? Yep. And when you're doing that, you've then got to start to think about, well, at what point do we revalue the company to determine how much we're giving away when someone achieves something that benefits the company in some significant way. Because to my mind, it's got to be something that they're adding a value to the company that goes beyond the fact that they made some sales. It's got to be something that's adding a bit more sort of strategic long-term value to the overall benefit of the company. So maybe it's bringing on a key partnership that keeps yielding sales again and again and again, or something along those lines.
Certainly for her role, this particular team member, she's not a straight sponsorship partnership person. She's not just tick the box. She's doing a lot more than that. She's building relationships above and beyond what she's doing. So certainly that's not just that. So certainly it's something for us to really explore down the opportunity in the structure that you just mentioned.
So there's several ways that you go about doing it. One way is to say, well, let's figure something out specifically for this individual employee because maybe they're quite different from everyone else. Yep. Or should we be setting up something along the lines of an employee share option plan so that it's clear to everyone in the company that that's available to you, and these are the hurdles you've got to jump across to qualify for it. There's several ways that you can go about doing it. It'd be a deeper conversation to figure out the exact way. But you've got a couple of different options before you, and all of them have been trodden before. So someone has done all of those different options before. So you'll be able to see case studies of what's actually transpired in different businesses when they've tried different ways of incentivising staff through ownership. Did you ladies have an angle?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose from my perspective, it's bringing it right back to the strategy. Before this person approached you, was it something you'd ever considered, a partnership? And B, what I would do is I'd look at where do you want to take the business over the next 3, 5, 10 years, and really what is going to help you get there, and look really how are you going to achieve your goals, and then look at how you bring on a partner and whether that partner is the right person. So it's really kind of looking forward in order to look back, rather than starting with someone saying, oh, I want to be part of your business. That's great ego boost and fantastic for you as well. And it's great that people want to be part of the business, but unless it's going to take your business to that next stage, you really need to look closely at that person and what they are going to offer.
I suppose one of the things that's constantly at the back chatter that we all have, it's when you have someone new to the team, there's always the opportunity time where they want to challenge you. Sometimes it's a good challenge, sometimes it's an annoying challenge. Just leave me alone. If I am my own boss, I can just keep doing what I'm doing. But I guess that's where it adds a different dimension to the business, adds a different depth to your thinking. It really stretches it. So I'm beginning to experience that. Oh, sometimes I'm thinking, damn, she has saved the project many times. Damn, I hate it when she challenged me that way. So it's getting through that mental discomfort.
It sounds like she's going to challenge you whether you bring her on board anyway. So that's kind of like a separate argument, I think. But I think, in essence, what we're saying combined is, let's create the big picture, figure out how everything fits in, and then from there you'll be able to present to this staff member and anyone else that you want to include in that process, this is how you can actually achieve part ownership of the business. Okay?
Will do. Thank you.
Excellent. Please thank Keith. Great. Now it's time for our last special guest of the night. Let's bring up Jovan de Monteverde from Accounts Maven. Please make him welcome. Thanks for being here. Now, full disclosure, Jovan wears two hats. He's also the Chief Financial Officer at BeBusiness. And we are basically a team of entrepreneurs, and every now and then someone taps me on the shoulder and says, hey John, I've got this really good idea for a business, can we do it? And Accounts Maven, that's where that came from. So I just wanted to introduce this business to you all tonight and talk to Jovan. He's, in addition to being the CFO, he's also the principal accountant at Accounts Maven. So let's give everyone a little bit of context about Accounts Maven. Most people in business already have an accountant of some sort doing various things for them. Where does Accounts Maven fit in? How's it different?
Sure. So typically when people talk about an accountant, oh yeah, I have an accountant, what they're really referring to, or what they really initially think is a compliance accountant, someone who lodges your badge, tells you how much to pay, and lodges your tax return. It's different to what we do, which is more management accounting.
Let's elaborate on what a management accounting
So
is.
what we do, we help businesses make better decisions with how they distribute and reallocate their finances, what to pay, when to pay, manage their cash flow, manage their accounts receivable, accounts payable, take care of all the pain points of actually running an accounts department for their business so that they can focus on what they do.
So it's essentially an outsourced accounts department?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, great. So then how do you actually bring to market an offering that is really comprehensive and yet really affordable? How's that possible?
It's a very good combination of highly intelligent accountants that we have and the technology that we utilize.
He's not bragging, it's true.
And the technology that we utilize and implement. So I'm always on the hunt for best-in-class technology out there. And it's, I guess, my job in the firm to make sure that I'm always constantly curating what the technologies are out there that we can present to our clients. And so, you know, we may present a solution that is good as it is right now, but it may not be the best 1, 2, 3 years down the track. A new a new technology can come in and challenge the incumbent. At that point, we'll have that conversation with our clients and make sure that they're always on top.
The other thing you said was really intelligent accountants. So how do you sort them out? How do you figure out which are the right ones to join the team?
Well, fortunately, we have a very, very strict and comprehensive, hiring process for how we hire accountants. It's pretty grueling, actually. I designed it myself, and I'm pretty harsh.
It's pretty nasty.
So, we start with about maybe 500 to about 1,000 applicants that come through the door, shortlist that to about 3 or 4 with specific requirements that we have for our accounting firm. And we may not hire the smartest person in the room, but we make sure that we're hiring the right accountant. Yeah.
Excellent. And what's a typical client for Accounts Maven?
Small to medium enterprise, anywhere from a micro, a couple of $100,000 a year, all the way up to 10 million. I mean, we can come into a business and help them in as much or as little as they need.
So assumedly, once they get past that 10 million mark, they really need to have those resources internally?
Well, yes, that's right. I mean, all the way through their journey up to the 10 million mark, we'd be looking at, okay, do we need to put in a payroll person, an accounts payable person, an accounts receivable person to manage that particular part of that process? And then, eventually grow out their team as and when the requirements need.
Excellent. Can you please thank Jovan? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us tonight, Amir. And it's a really great question. Can you just paint a picture for us about what your company is, what you do, who you tend to work with, and what the thinking was behind the question that you asked tonight?
Well, I guess I'll give you a little bit of the story of why we came together. So we wanted to be in this organic food space, and we always have the vision to start creating products here in Australia for organic food. But because we didn't have the network, we didn't know anything, we said, well, let's start distributing someone else's product. And we bring this fantastic brand from the USA back to the roots, which basically for Australia, what we have is organic food growing kits. So basically, people can, in the schools or at the home, they can bring the organic food experience to a kitchen top, to a classroom, and grow from mushrooms to herbs And it's a very interesting experience because they not only choosing to eat healthy, but they also see in the whole process what happened in nature. They see it at their fingertips. So I guess now, after starting from nothing, we're now in around 3,000 schools, around 400 stores. So we have some of the connections from the bigger retailers to distributors to brokers. We know a few people from New Zealand, Western Australia, every single state. We know our peers as well, what's happening in the market. So I think we are at the point now that we can start manufacturing our own line. So we are at the prototype level at the moment for do-it-yourself kits that will be done here in Australia, and we'll extend the line that we have from the USA, and will pair well. So when we pitch to a retailer, we basically have a bigger range straight away. So I guess where I'm coming from the question is that when we started for the first time with this product from the USA, they sell in a different way that we sell. So they sell in food, supermarkets, and probably education. When we brought the product here, we went probably naively because we didn't know anything about the space. And what we found is that our biggest sellers are education, toys, gift, homework. So basically what we went was in a journey of discovery, which were the channels that actually will be open to our products.
So which channels are you currently operating in right now?
So we actually sell from grocery stores to toy stores to educational catalogs, homewares.
The catalogs are going through education food distributors?
No, not really. So there's a company that specializes just in going to schools with field sales and a big catalog like the old days, and that's how they sell to teachers. And if you're not in the catalog, well, basically the teachers don't know about you. You're very, very old school, but that's the way teachers buy. So every single vertical have their own way to be sold.
So they're the ones that you're currently operating in. Have you identified the ones that you want to get into next?
Well, look, that's probably the how long is a piece of string. Like, we would like to go at the same time with this product, to be very naively as well, enter and be open as many as we can, but at the same time, if I guess the book answer, the notional answer will be try to focus on what you think will be best and try to make it work first before you go somewhere else. But I guess the street answer will be, I don't know if I need to do that, because the fact that we didn't do that was that helped us get here. So it's trying to balance those two.
So maybe you've asked if how can you take it into other channels. Is there any other channels specifically that you will know that you want to target?
Yeah. So for example now, because of the design that we've chosen for this new product, we're going to be portable into bookstores as well. So that's another interesting channel.
That's a product that you haven't released yet, correct?
No. Yeah, it's as a prototype level.
But in terms of the products that you've already got, were there other channels that you wanted to explore around them?
On the current distribution branch, look, I think we have our hands full already where we are. So
it's really about how we launch this new product and say, can we take this brand new product, launch it where we've been successful before, and can we also explore other channels with that?
More than that is, how can we utilize the networks and the connections that we already have in all those channels to discover where this product is going to go best? And because we are now the manufacturer, obviously there's a volume component that you want to build really quickly. Like when you're a distributor and you have small margin, then it's a different story.
So just for a bit of context, I know a little bit about these products, so a quick overview. There's a product where you can grow mushrooms in a bag, which is pretty amazing. You just get the bag and it's got the whole kit and you grow the mushrooms. And there's another one where you're actually growing herbs and there's a fish tank underneath, and that's actually helping the herbs to do what they do. The new product is a book that's actually a complete kit on how to make your own cheese, and it's got all the bits and pieces in there and all the instructions on there as well, which is why the question is about how do we sell a book but still using the channels that we've got. So, is there any follow-up questions, ladies?
Can I just check that the new product is not going to cannibalise the existing product? Do you see that as an extension? So could you have both, or would you have one?
I think for some retailers, they will only take the new product because even the old product might not be their best fit for them. For some others, like let's say for education, it's just like, yeah, whatever you bring me on the same line, I'm gonna take it. So, and actually they are expecting, like gifts and particularly in high design, they're always looking for new products. They're expecting for you to every year bring new products. So if you don't bring the new products as a distributor, then you become less relevant for them. And if your range is small, like it's like the same as share of wallet on a consumer. If you are working with a retailer, the more than you can get from their spend, the better.
So does that mean that you've got lots more products in the pipeline?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there are a few ideas as well on what's coming down the pipeline on there. And obviously we, as a manufacturer, is a different story as well, like because you depend on being successful to be able to fund the next one, right? So it's very important for this one to hit it in the nail straight away and get that product market fit straight away so we can actually add the next ones pretty quickly.
Yeah, so there's a whole area of differentiation, so I'll probably give that to you, Sheila. Yeah.
Okay, so have you got a clear value proposition for all of your products? So if I'm a retailer and you come to me and show me your products, are they all very clearly different, and do I know exactly what's in it for me when I buy them?
I would like to say yes, but the reality is that there is an education process because I guess when you bring very innovative products that are not me too, that is like first mover kind of thing, it's great because everybody says, oh yeah, you're doing something that never been done, but at the same time, there's an education component there, right? So no one has been there, no one has educated them before, they don't know how they use these. So you gotta be mindful of that with your customer.
So when someone says to you, what is the benefit, why should I carry your stock, what's your first answer?
I guess I lean a lot on my current range and what has been the results for my current range and how the user actually takes the current range. So from the home user to the teacher to the people that is just looking for a really innovative gift. So basically it's just tapping onto all those uses and saying, well, this is just another way of doing the same thing. And in a way, they are also looking for an innovative way of doing it. And obviously, you have to work the design, the packaging, everything inside the experience of a product that it doesn't take things too much away from what the user will understand is something I can do by myself. So trying to make it really, really easy for them. But that blend is, where we are at the moment.
So your current range has been really successful. So have your sales exceeded expectations or met expectations, or?
I guess I didn't know what the expectations were.
Well, you can't miss an expectation you don't set.
Set some expectations.
So look, we exceeded expectation in some spaces. So for example, like with the fish tank, a lot of people tell me like, well, you should be in a lot of pet shops. And we sold thousands of the tank and we haven't sold a single one in a pet shop. And the first place where I went to actually sell the tank was in the pet space.
Do you know, so in the channels where you have been successful, have you managed to isolate why you've been successful in those channels? And have you been able to isolate why you haven't been successful in the others?
That's a great question. So in a few of them, yes, we know where are we stronger and where we have less friction to sell. So where the sale is is way easier. But then there are other channels that the sale is harder, and we know why it's harder. So why the product is just more successful, less successful in one of those channels? We're going through that transition, I guess. But at the same time,
so do you understand why it's successful in schools? You're in 3,000 schools. Why do the schools love it?
Look, it's schools, teachers pretty much are the ones making the decision, right? So like everybody else, everybody's trying to go into a more natural, more healthy option. For teachers, within the STEM, which is the science part of a curriculum, everything out there is all synthetic, chemical-based, It's all like has been done for a million years. So if you bring in an option that is natural and they can cover the same concepts in the curriculum, it is a no-brainer for them.
It's experiential learning, right? That's the ticket. The teachers can actually give their students a tangible experience, and they learn something about how food comes about.
And the best part is that the experiment that they do, which and that's why we are designing the way we design it at the moment. Like every time that you cook dinner, that is an experiment. But if you take it the same way,
Especially in my house.
well, yeah, it should be right. Every time that you cook dinner is an experiment. But if you take that into the school and you make it an experiment that they can eat, it makes it much better. The other thing is that the schools are really bad commercial people, and a lot of our competitors, suppliers, they overcharge and under-deliver a lot. So in a way, we come with a good product at a good price. It is hard to say no.
Have you thought of working with cooking classes for children, so people and brands that run cooking classes for children? Have you also looked at, there's a lot of environmentally friendly websites out there, so I'm trying to reduce the amount of plastic in our household, so there's all the environmentally friendly products that you can buy for your home. Is that something you've tried as a channel?
No, that's a great question. Yes, so with this line, it's the product side of things, and I don't want to give too much away, but because it's not even in the market. But there's also the service side of it as well. So we understand that there will be a lot of consumers that they will see the actual product and they will say, yeah, I think I can do it, but if I had someone that can take me by the hand and help me do it, I will probably pay for that. So there's the product side and the service side that we are trying to put together. So we understand that there's actually, it's more developed, the service side as a business model than even the product side.
So what percentage do you sell direct to consumer through your website?
From my own website, it depends on the vertical, but I guess overall revenue will be around 50-60%.
Okay, so quite a lot come direct to you.
But it's obviously a higher margin when you go direct, right? So
yeah, exactly. So you got to balance it more. So I guess in a way, because we're the importer and the way economics works in terms of shipping, containers, and all the stuff, you always have to have certain volume, but at the same time, you always want to get the best margin that you can, and that's coming from online, right? It's not that there is no investment in online. There's still an investment in online, but the return is much better. But we have to balance those two things. We have to get the volume, and now we're at the manufacturer. It's going to be even more focused into that.
Can I mention a dirty word? Have you thought of Amazon?
Well, Amazon is going to be perfect for us. We love Amazon coming to Australia, and a lot of brands will love Amazon coming to Australia. There's a lot of small retailer websites that, yeah, they will be in tough water, but for the brands that have controlled the brand or that have a good product, Amazon is going to be great.
Yeah, and that's a huge opportunity. Talk to them, be one of the first on Amazon. I mean, that would be a great thing for you to promote for your business as well.
We're already talking to them. We're right in there.
well, Menda, I think there really is an opportunity because you got some products that are quite unique, and so they could potentially get some really good showcasing when Amazon first launches here in Australia as a direct service. So you might, and you're not going to get that chance again. Like that opportunity will happen once. Some companies are going to get picked, and it'll be great for them. So that's actually a really golden opportunity to tap into and to figure out exactly what you need to do to be picked as. And one of the things they're going to be looking at, I imagine, is going to be surety of supply. They don't want to promote you and then find out that you go out of stock in the first 2 hours.
Yeah, no, certainly. We know very well the Amazon model. We've been trying to work it out even on the model that they had before. So yeah, and the way they work is pretty straightforward. Actually, they define the standard for the industry. So I suppose that in Australia it's going to be very easy to work with them, and because it's such a large marketplace, so pretty much everyone will have an invitation to start. But then once you're in there, it's like what you do for Google. So there are specialists as well that you improve your Amazon ranking. It's a complete new space that you have to own and navigate, and definitely going to put time on that.
So that's definitely one area to look at. And the other thing that Sheila mentioned earlier before that you really need to put some effort into is to get much better at clearly defining exactly what you offer to people who might want to resell your product. So there's what you're doing for yourself, and that's a conversation with the consumer. But when you're trying to get other people to promote and sell your product for you, you've got to develop some very clear guidelines that tell them exactly why it's of benefit to them, how to get it to move properly. You want to create ease of sale for them. You want to be the easiest thing to move on their shelf. And so you want to get rid of all the barriers between them and getting a sale from their customer. And so really actually understanding clearly what your key points of difference are to whatever they're selling instead of your product. And that's an aspect, I guess, of marketing planning again that you need to do to actually clearly define your key points of difference, your differentiating factors, as Sheila pointed out earlier.
Yeah, no, certainly. I guess there is, with the more strategic buyers, which are the buyers that actually buy for the bigger spaces, they don't buy you for the price, for the volume or for the quantity that you have, not even for the innovation that you have. They only buy you for what marketing you have on the track, how are you gonna support your brand at the track. So the marketing plan is even more important to them than the product itself, because they need to see that the brand is actually playing for the future. And there's brands in every single supermarket that comes and goes every day. So they want someone that would have a very clear vision on what's going to happen and will partner with them. So yes, we're working onto that. As we said, we started in this space 2.5 years ago, and we're trying now to get a combination of investment and advice to be able to get the learning curve faster than what naturally will be. So that's what we do.
Great, yeah. So as I say, we need to get that language and tools in place to help retailers move your product for you more easily. And let's explore that Amazon channel, the first to market opportunity while it's still there. Can we please thank Amir? Great question.